So Max Verstappen signed his contract. $53 million a year. Plus an extra $5 million for every championship he wins.
Which is every year at this point. And every year going forward.
So I had a thought about this. $53 million a year. What would you spend with that?
Okay. We're buying houses in every country of the world.
100%.
We're getting an apartment in Monaco, like Max Verstappen has.
Oh, yeah.
We're getting the private jet. We're getting the boat. And I still have like $40 million left.
You only spent 10? 13?
Opening my own karting facility. We've talked about this before. My ideal karting facility. I wouldn't have to worry about liability because I can pay for all those insurance claims. That might take up the rest of the $40 million with people racing in night vision and all that.
Night vision?
But yeah, where's your head at with this?
I don't know if it's with night vision and karting.
Look, man, I've got dreams.
But I've definitely had some thoughts, buying a large plot of land. I would definitely build a go-kart track out on there, without a doubt. I would also build a dirt track course, have a lot of toys out there, that's for sure.
We wouldn't have to qualify in the higher-end carts. You can just buy the higher-end carts.
Yeah, that's true. I'm going to every single race, I'll tell you that. Man. Paddock passes.
To every race for every year.
Yeah.
Welcome to Turn 1, a Formula One podcast. Now entering the grid. Here are your hosts, Thomas and Jeremiah.
This is F1 drivers' biggest flexes.
What is that voice?
I don't know. I thought I'd try something new. Guys, we're your hosts, Jeremiah.
And Thomas. He's taken back. He's doing like YouTube announcer voice guy.
Give it a little bit of flair, something new.
All right.
So we're talking about the biggest purchases that F1 drivers have made with their millions of dollars that they make. And I say millions. People like Yuki Tsunoda just made it to $1 million for a year.
He was at it's not a big deal. He was at like 600,000 or 700,000 for like what feels like a very long time. And I think just with his recent contract, he got bumped up to $1 million. Because also making $1 million is Logan Sargent, and it feels like Yuki should be making more with his like 5 years of experience
and actual points placements.
And Oscar makes 2.
Well, that's a champion right there.
That's a champion.
Point is, though, with Max Verstappen making $53 million a year, Lewis Hamilton not far behind him, and the rest to follow, we thought that we would make a video on kind of how they choose to spend this large lump sums of money.
And it's crazy because I don't know what website you found. There's some website. Is it just Charles Leclerc money, or can you do it with any driver?
I think it's any driver. There's a website that you can go to. You can pick whatever driver. It gives you their net worth and just a bunch of options of stuff you can buy.
And it's really hard to spend all that money.
It's one of those things where you end up with like 400 fire trucks or 300 bars or just...
And the weird thing about this, so oftentimes in like professional sports, it's younger men getting a ton of money, and you see this with NFL players or NBA players. They buy crazy houses and crazy cars and all this stuff. F1 drivers are no different. They're just international, and so they might be more like a young soccer star, something like that. But they're also race car drivers, so inherently they're crazy.
So I should preface this because you already mentioned it. They're all race car drivers.
Yeah.
So number one, before I say a single driver on this list, I'm going to go ahead and let y'all know that every single driver on this list has a car collection. Now, how extensive that car collection is completely dependent on what their salary is. And I'll give some names of some of the cars that these drivers owns along with kind of what their price tag was so that you can kind of get an idea of how much money they're just throwing out.
And not like I've got every year of the Corvette Stingray from the 70s. No. They have F1 car collections.
Yeah.
They have only 3 of these were ever made car collections.
Yeah. So we'll pop off the list. We'll go with Max Verstappen, the man, the myth.
He's got so much stuff.
First of all, I only listed one item, and that's the Dassault Falcon 900EX, which is his own private jet. That is not to mention whatsoever all of his cars. I didn't list a single one of those. His Monaco apartment didn't list any of that. He's got a racing rig set up for his e-racing, but he makes the most money, I believe, out of all of them. So it's kind of like, okay, well, fair play.
And his jet, aside from the, having the pilots and the attendants and the maintenance and all this, which he'll get to the maintenance if you didn't already, he got a custom wrap job on it, a paint job on it with his own logo and his colors.
100%. And wouldn't you?
So not only does he have a private jet, but he has branded his private jet just because he's a company and he's got all that, but he's really just a dude.
The Dutch Army.
Like he's not like
the Orange Army.
Yeah, he's not like Jeff Bezos flying around in an Amazon plane or Musk flying around in no. This is just Max Verstappen and his Max Verstappen brand.
It's just one driver.
It's just one driver.
So that jet has a price tag of $7 to $9 million. Now that's just the price tag for the actual jet itself. Like you had already mentioned, it comes with maintenance costs. It comes with refueling, fixing the jet with any kind of problems. You got to refill it with any kind of condiments that you might have of any.
Parking it somewhere.
Storage. You're right. You have to pay for a pilot.
Probably 2 pilots.
Yeah, you're looking at an additional $1 to $2 million tacked onto that every year.
Easy. Like that's got to be low level.
It's probably low level, especially when you think about paying a pilot's license or salary. That alone,
just to sit around and wait on Max Verstappen.
Yeah, a stewardess. Would you like some more peanuts, Max?
Because we know it's not Kelly Piquet delivering the peanuts down the aisle.
Well, she's not getting up there serving. There's not a chance of that happening.
No.
So that's Max. Like I said, Monaco apartment, car collection, boat, yacht, jet. Everything else that money can buy.
Twitch streaming rig.
Oh yeah. So we'll move on from Max because he's got all the money. Let's talk about the Minister of Defense himself. Oh yeah. Car collection.
Dad.
Yeah. Well, enough said there. Like I said, car collection. He's the man. I will list 3 of his cars in his collection as well as the totals. He's got the Bugatti Chiron. Super fast, dude. Fastest production car for a while. I believe it's been beaten. I could be wrong.
Okay.
Bugatti Chiron, $3 million. McLaren P1, $1.5 million. And the McLaren 720S at another $1 million. Add all that up together with those 3 cars alone, that's a $5 million price tag. And he has more cars. I just listed the top 3.
Just the top 3, yeah. And that's only his car collection, not any of his real estate or anything like that. It makes sense what these guys spend their money on, but at the same time, like they take, like again, we see NFL players buying cars all the time. It'll be like one cool car, like it'd be a really cool Mercedes or like some super Ferrari. These guys buy cars for very specific reasons, and I think you'll see that as we get down Jeremiah's list a little bit more maybe. Like they buy the limited things that apply to them as a racing driver, right?
Yeah.
They want speed. They're not looking for a luxurious interior of a car like a Bentley or a Rolls Royce. They want stripped down, bare bones, carbon fiber, go fast. Because even when they leave their F1 car, they're just doing the same thing out on the Autobahn of Germany.
Oh, yeah. I mean, very recently, at the time of this recording, Max Verstappen was just very recently caught on camera flying in his Aston Martin Valkyrie, which is a car I didn't even list in his car collection.
No, someone else has one of those. But yeah, the Valkyrie is a crazy limited Aston Martin car. Crazy expensive, and it's got a yoke wheel. It has a screen on the wheel like the F1 car. It's got a screen up in the middle, and the video of Max just shows him kind of one-handing it and like tapping on the screen while he's going 100 miles an hour. It's absolutely wild.
Enough about Max.
Sorry, Sergio.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the thing is that Sergio's a dad, right? And he also has a foundation where I'm sure the majority of his money does go to in Mexico. He does have his own Fundación de Sergio Perez,
He's got to be a little more conservative with the Bugatti Chiron.
And the $3 million car?
Yeah, a little more the fastest production car ever made.
All right. We got to move on. Fernando Alonso. So as I mentioned, a lot of these drivers have their yacht. So he has a yacht himself. It's the 80 Eco Sail, which for those that aren't aware is a solar-powered yacht. This thing is massive, aesthetically pleasing. It's gorgeous to look at.
I'm looking at this for the first time. One, looks awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Looks like something out of like a James Bond movie or that Batman would have. Because it's like all blacked out. Yeah, it looks like what Batman would have as a boat. It's huge, like you mentioned, and it's kind of like if you're familiar with those shows that, like you ever watch like Below Deck or something like that, where they've got like the crazy yacht. This would be a boat on that show. Like it's that nice looking, and it's solar powered.
So that's a $5 million boat.
Yeah. Okay.
But I wanted to mention this next part. It doesn't have a price tag, but it definitely is something that needs to be mentioned in terms of what F1 drivers spend their money on. Fernando Alonso has his own museum in Spain. In this museum is pretty much every car he's ever raced in. 1,500 cars to be exact, with 300 of him being cars that he owns. And we're not just talking about cars like, it's not like he has a Volkswagen Bug or something like that. Maybe he does. I'm not sure. But no, he's got both of his award-winning Renault cars, the Renault R25 and the R26, right there for show. He's got some Ferrari cars, F1 cars, the single-seater cars from his F2 days. He's even got some of his karts from back whenever he was a youngster.
Saw the wall of karts sitting up there with the little blue accents and stuff on them. They look wild. Also crazy how karts look the exact same today that they did like
not much change. Not much change.
They're pretty bare bones, but still, you'd think there'd be some kind of innovation in those.
Right. So I talked about the cars in it.
Okay.
That's not just what the building is about. This thing is also a karting school and karting complex.
Yep.
2 giant tracks that can be formed into one, and I believe you looked up a picture of it.
I went to Google Earth like we do with everything else.
Yeah. What's your take?
So it's not in the middle of nowhere, but it's certainly not in like Barcelona or anything like that. Like it's in northern Spain, which isn't super populated. It's very mountainous. So it's not like this was like a tourist attraction necessarily. This was built for him and to maintain where he came from and the region and all that. And yeah, it's not a small building by any means. You come up on it, it's a huge, like dark gray, almost graphite color building with these red accents. It's got a mural of him up on the front of it that says "Start your engines." It's got Fernando Alonso. And then inside of it, like Jeremiah mentioned, is the car collections. And essentially, kind of like how we have in the US, the presidential libraries, it's like his library of everything he's ever done. And then, yeah, you go back and you race go-karts. And it's a big karting track. Like I think Jeremiah was looking into this too. It's like accredited and it's like an official FIA sanctioned event place.
Yeah, so they hold FIA sanctioned go-kart events there every single year since its inaugural season, I think in 2018 or 19.
He might not be the only F1 driver modern to have his museum, but probably the biggest one going.
Definitely didn't know that.
Yeah.
I will say this, though. As far as Fernando Alonso goes, yet another one where he kind of flies under the radar in terms of spending money, but at the same time still manages to spend money.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. We're going to talk about Lewis Hamilton.
Okay.
Before Max Verstappen. I could be wrong. How much does Lewis Hamilton make in a season?
I see $35 million a year.
So $35 million with Max getting his $53 million. That means Lewis is probably the second best paid F1 driver, and at one point was the number one paid until Max started his run.
I see Charles behind him at 24, so there's a pretty big jump.
Exactly. So being the highest paid F1 driver for multiple seasons is not just something you say. It comes with a very hefty price tag that all gets paid out to Lewis Hamilton. Now, what he does with his money, that's what we're going to talk about.
Okay. What does he do?
So he has a yacht, first of all, like every single F1 driver who makes a considerable amount of money. It's called the Sunseeker yacht.
So I was looking these up, and I don't have a background in yachts, but I've been into boats for a long time. Sunseeker, unless it's something crazy or special, is just a standard yacht brand. It seems like he didn't really fully splurge on the yacht aspect like maybe a Fernando did or somebody else.
It's only a $4 million yacht.
Only $4 million, yeah.
No, but on a serious note, that's not where he's splurged, to your point. He has an entire car collection. Of those, the number one being his unfortunately now wrecked Pagani Zonda.
Oh, Lewis.
And I believe he got rid of it at this point, but it was a fully customized Pagani Zonda, and the whole deal behind it was this is an $11 million car, or was an $11 million car.
I'm looking at a beautiful purple and gray,
yes.
I believe, Pagani, just completely destroyed, sitting on the back of a
photo?
Sitting on the back of a flatbed.
Oh no!
With the back wheels completely cambered in, the front of it all misaligned. There's $11 million on the back of like a 1990s Mitsubishi truck.
Lewis Hamilton. He's also got his own fashion sense. He does his own thing in the fashion world. He has his Monaco apartment, as well as other retail.
Does a ton of charity work.
Oh, huge amount of charity work. But Monaco isn't his only location. He's got multiple different houses, multiple different areas. Huge car collection. Like I said, the Pagani Zonda being the number one and the only one that I mentioned, but huge because he's had this money coming in for years of being a champion.
Like 2007-ish.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
Okay, who's next?
Charles Leclerc.
The Monegasque himself.
How does Ferrari spoil their little champion?
$24 million a year.
Who's not a champion?
Oh yeah, I didn't even recognize it. And maybe won't be ever. But
You said 24 million?
24 million a year.
Yeah, he could do better.
I don't know if he could.
As if we're making millions over here.
Yeah.
So, like every single F1 driver, he's also got a yacht. This one's called the Riva Sportfly 66 Rebelle.
This is like the sport yacht version of what Fernando bought. It's sleek. It's either gray or black. It's got a party deck off the back. It's got a they call them garages on boats, but essentially the back of the boat opens up, and that's where you store all the toys. So inside your boat, you have other boats and jet skis and little tenders or whatever it might be. I am not surprised that he has this. And you know where we see probably a lot of these and we don't even realize it? Monaco weekend.
Oh, without a doubt. They're just sitting there driving around all through Monaco.
Yeah. And they're probably out there on their boats and we just don't recognize it, except for Red Bull, because Red Bull has their own Red Bull boat.
Yeah, and it's very obvious. You see it sitting out there in the bay.
The logo on the side. It's dark blue with the red and yellow accents.
Christian Horner's diving off the top.
How much is that worth?
The Red Bull yacht?
No, the Charles.
Oh, the yacht?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a $2 million boat.
It seems like a lot of boat for $2 million.
It seems like it's a low price tag. I wasn't a fan. I don't know if that's an accurate number. I'm going to assume it is just based on the website that I went to. So you're looking it up?
I'm seeing like you can buy
like
one
1.8.
brand new for $3.8 million today. So maybe when he got his, it was 2-ish.
Okay.
Inflation, it's hurting everybody.
Right. So, to wrap up Charles Leclerc, I will say that he is also the owner of a massive car collection, with his number one prize position also being a Bugatti Chiron for $3 million.
And those aren't easy to get. Like, they're not cranking those out by the hundreds every day like Ford is. Like, those are very limited production cars.
As a matter of fact, how limited? Survey says there have been 500 Chirons that have been made and sold.
And at least 2 F1 drivers have one of them.
There's more.
Yeah, at least 2.
We'll get to the rest of them.
All right, let's go to Mr. Russell, probably the least extrinsic.
Number 2 at Mercedes.
Yeah.
Now, after we get past Max Verstappen, Fernando Alonso, Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc, the money starts to drop. I feel like we need to preface that. Yeah, but we're talking about Max's $53 million to Alex Albon's $3 million.
Russell makes 8.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry.
He could buy that Riva yacht.
Right. My fault. Max only makes about 9 or 10 times more than him. That's my fault.
It's 5, 6.
Who cares? It's a way out. Regardless, Russell is a man that also finds himself liking the finer things in life. The only difference is that he's not the kind of guy that's going to drop serious money on one massive purchase. He's got multiple different things.
Okay.
He's a man that likes fashion. He's got multiple nice brand clothes. A lot of money there, but again, nothing that's like dramatic amount of money, just nice clothes.
I feel like he'd be a Polo Ralph Lauren guy. Not quite.
I'm sure he reaches a little higher than that, considering I can get 5 Ralph Lauren polos for way cheaper than I think he's. I mean, this is a guy that makes, what did you say, 8 million?
8.
Yeah.
Is he going to the outlets?
I wonder if on that website we can see how many Polo Ralph Lauren t-shirts that George Russell could buy with his net worth.
Man, I'm going to try to find that by the end of this show.
Okay, regardless, like I said, he enjoys the finer things. He does have a car collection. No cars realistically that go over about 500,000. Now, you have to remember when these guys buy their cars, if they were to immediately put them on the market for resale, it will sell at a higher value than what it's being sold to them for. That's just because of the scarcity of their cars. So he does have a Ferrari 812 that's only going to be about $405,000. I say only like that's light. That's an unrealistic amount of money for a car. But when you're talking about a Pagani Zonda that's worth 11 million, you're talking about a Bugatti Chiron that's worth 3 million, then George Russell's 405,000 doesn't sound as crazy. But you still have to understand he's buying a $405,000 car, and that's just one of his cars in his collection. Another big thing that Russell likes to spend his money on is watches. This is something he's worn even whenever he first started. You know how like at the end of a race, the team will go and give you your watch? Russell's the kind of guy that he's got his watches. It's not just I'm only going to wear them when I'm on camera.
He seems like a high-end watch guy.
Yeah, he does. You look at him.
Yep.
And he's even upped his game as he's making more money. So with this Mercedes paycheck that he's got, he's now buying watches that range anywhere from like $8,000 to $12,000 each, which, you know, there are watches out there that are millions of dollars.
A nice Patek Philippe or whatever it is.
Yeah, but, you know, like I said, Russell's not buying the most expensive thing of anything, but he's buying nicer branded, like nicer quality things. He's appreciating his money, but not going crazy. I respect that.
I will say that this website does not have George Russell on it.
Wow.
It's called spinrichmoney.com, and it's got all these rich drivers. It lists the richest driver as Michael Schumacher at $628 million.
Oh my God.
It would take me a very long time to spend his money.
Also, I will say that it says a yacht on that website is like 15 million. There's not a single F1 driver on this list who has a yacht that's 15 million.
It lists an F-16 fighter plane as 15 million.
Jeez.
Or a rocket for 60 million. Like a rocket.
Mission 33 just took on a whole nother meaning.
An NFL team has $2.3 billion.
Oh, yeah. Michael Schumacher's not buying an NFL
Not buying
team.
one of those.
Okay. George Russell, he likes the finer things. Ferrari 812, $405,000.
Okay.
Makes about $8 million a year. Moving on. Carlos Sainz, the other Ferrari. I like Carlos Sainz. He's been in the game a little bit longer. Not long. He entered about the same time that Max Verstappen did.
Yeah.
But he was older at the time.
He does feel more tenured,
He
doesn't
does,
he?
right? He feels like he's 35 and he's not.
It's kind of like that weird thing, like we mentioned it before, where Sebastian Vettel is older than Lewis Hamilton, but it really doesn't feel like that.
Was he?
No, sorry, Lewis Hamilton is older than Sebastian Vettel.
Yeah, it feels like Lewis Hamilton's like 32, and it felt like Sebastian Vettel was 38.
40.
And we were just way wrong.
Yeah.
So, be that as it may, like I said, Carlos Sainz been in the game a little bit longer. He's accrued some money. Accrued some money, rather.
He gets paid $12 million per year.
Okay, so $4 million more than George Russell annually.
Sorry, George.
Yeah. Sorry, George. This is why Carlos Sainz, instead of having a Ferrari 812 like George, he has a Ferrari 812 Competition,
Oh.
which George Russell...
Sorry. Did he opt for leather seats? And that's the...
Whatever the change is, it boosts it up another $200,000. The price tag for this is $602,000.
It was probably literally the color
Oh, yeah.
with how Ferrari does
No,
their stuff.
Competition, I believe it means it has an upgraded performance package on it, so it's going to be able to do more.
We're about to find out.
But Carlos Sainz, like I said, he's another F1 driver who's going to have boats and properties and cars. And I say the Ferrari 812 Competition, but that's really his prize. Like that's his pride and joy. That's his number one. But he's also got boats, right? He's got a Riva Aquarama, I think is the name. Aquarama.
Is that another boat?
Yeah, it's another boat.
Okay.
You can look that one up.
So they're buying the Rivas.
Right. And he's got his car collection, like I said. I'm not going to go into that detail, but that's got to be worth millions at that point. What'd you find?
Very different boat. The Riva Aquarama is like an old school Chris Craft boat.
So I forgot to mention, he's got two boats.
Okay.
He's got a yacht and a speedboat.
Yeah, this is the speedboat, and it looks... It's an old school, like, 50s style Chris Craft boat, if you're familiar with those, like with the wood grain. This looks like a luxury jet boat.
Nice.
Which is awesome.
So he's a man that likes speed even when he's not on the track.
Yeah. I can see
How about that? He's also got property. He's got property, doesn't have property in Monaco, but he has property in Spain and Italy.
He doesn't have property in Monaco that you know of.
That's true. But I know for a fact that he's got property in Spain and Italy,
Yeah.
which I feel like it's almost like it doesn't even need to be said that all of these drivers are going to have a piece of property in their home country.
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
And Max has like 8 home countries, so
Yeah, so I mean, Max has got property everywhere around the planet.
he probably just rented a space out at the Bellagio in Vegas now so that he can call Las Vegas his
Rented
home
it.
Grand
He
Prix.
bought the Bellagio.
Bought the bowl. I don't know if he's got that kind of dough.
Not for $53 million. Carlos Sainz. To tie it back. He's like I said, he's had a tenured career and he's still going. He's still very young. He's still going to make more money. His thing is, it's kind of like another Sergio Perez. He doesn't spend his money in a very flashy way.
Ferrari is not his end point by any means.
Really?
No. This dude wants to race for championships. He's a great driver. He's going to be getting one of those top 3 or 4 salaries here the next couple seasons, I think. Tell me he's not awesome.
I love him. I've been on record.
And Charles is Ferrari's guy. Carlos is not.
Yeah. I've been on record on this show on, I think, 3 or 4 separate occasions stating that I prefer Carlos over Charles.
We didn't mention this when we were talking about driver moves before in a previous episode, but Carlos and Max, it'd be kind of awesome.
Yeah, it would be a reunite.
Yeah.
They would be reuniting like they did at Toro Rosso.
And they could play pretty good partners.
That'd
with
be
each other.
pretty dangerous. I like it.
All right. Who's next?
Lando Norris.
The young whippersnapper. I don't know.
I was wondering where you're going with that.
Because he's not like dominant like Max was, and he's figured things out. I've said it so many times. He's the most marketable guy in F1. He has the look. He's got the followers. He's got the social thing working. What is he spending his money on?
First of all, what is his salary?
He gets paid, let us see, $20 million a year.
Makes
and
sense.
We talked about this before. McLaren invested a lot in him very early with 0 results.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because he's also signed for $20 million a year through 2025.
Yeah,
so he's got this season and 2 more seasons on top of it.
I like Lando. He's another one of those that goes in my driver column.
And you know what? McLaren would look really good if he wins the Drivers' Championship next year, only paying him $20 million a year for this long.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if it'll happen, but it would look good.
But he's also got brand deals, sponsorships.
Tons,
dude. He's got his own e-racing team that he funds fully. What else does he have? A massive car collection.
Look up an F1 hat one time, and your Facebook or Instagram feed will suddenly be filled with a ton of Lando Norris modeling things.
Wearing bucket hats.
Bucket hat. Floral designs.
Yeah, it's got like palm trees on it.
It's the same one.
Papayas. Oh, Lando. I do love him. He's a funny dude. He's got a place in Monaco.
Of course he does.
Yeah, of course. Outrageous car collection. Number 1 being his Lamborghini Aventador for $400,000.
Which is kind of it's crazy. Like most of the world will never have a Lamborghini, but considering some of the other cars that guys have, that's kind of tame.
It's true. It is tame.
But it's a speed demon.
Oh,
Those Lambos are not
100%.
known for luxury features.
No, and it's the Aventador, which for those that don't know, it's one of the higher packages for Lamborghini. Yeah. Lando is also a watch connoisseur. He's got multiple different watches, multiple different high-end brands. That's where a lot of his money is also going to be spent. But main one's probably going to go to his Monaco apartment with a hint of that Lamborghini Aventador, because I know the maintenance on that has got to be expensive. Anytime you got to get it serviced.
An oil change is $200,000.
Dude, probably, yeah. I'd say that's right. I mean, I know for a fact that Ferraris, anytime they have to get serviced, it's super expensive because the only way they can work on it is by pulling the entire engine. And so they have to pay for that every time.
And they don't give you like access to like remove the hood or anything. You have to have special tools, so you can't change your Lamborghini's oil at home. He pulls it up on the Harbor Freight jacks and throws the oil pan under there.
I wonder if this Honda part will work.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the pictures of like there's a whole article on his entire collection and how he travels and his apartment in Monaco. For a 20-something-year-old dude, he's living a pretty good life.
He lives lavishly. And, that comes into the whole fact that he's very young. And unlike like Alex Albon, who might be getting $3 million, George Russell, who might be getting $8 million, who's the same age, he's getting $20 million.
I love how this article puts this. Norris's 720S is capable of up to 212 miles per hour, can reach 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds. He's also been spotted next to a smaller McLaren GT, but with its V8 engine, it's still capable of over 600 horsepower in a car that weighs nothing.
Yeah, it comes to a point to where these guys, you have so much money, you're just buying toys.
Yeah.
Ultimately. It's all toys. It's all fun.
Hopefully they're saving some.
You have people like Lewis Hamilton making moves in the fashion industry, Lando Norris making moves in e-racing. We see that from Max and Alex and George as well with the e-racing, and a little bit from Charles. These guys have their other avenues. I'm hoping that they're exploring other options for whenever their salary runs out and their sponsorships run out.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and this can be you or audience, but correct me if I'm wrong. We don't really see, and maybe that's because there's not many F1 drivers, but we don't really see or hear about many of them mismanaging money or funds.
No, that's a good point.
Remember a couple years ago when like that documentary came out on like the NFL players, and it had like Bernie Kosar as like the main guy. It might have been an HBO or ESPN thing, but basically it was how if you get the wrong money manager earlier on, you're just messed up for your whole career. And it happens to so many NFL players and so many NBA players. Yeah, they're out of money like within a year or two after retiring. F1, is it just because it's such an exclusive club that they just figure it out?
I think it's so exclusive that the amount of guys they have around them helping them make good decisions, it's the ratio is different.
And
right?
The team is so smaller, so your team is helping you.
So think about, well, not even, because think about how big of a team in total Red Bull is.
That's true.
And it's for two people.
Yeah.
Max and Sergio.
But they're focusing all their time on those two people instead of a 70-person NFL roster.
Right. Or even an NBA roster of 12 guys.
Yeah. Okay, I kind of get it. But we just don't... If you know of anybody that has mismanaged their F1 money, let us know. We'll call them out.
That's the story we want to hear.
We'll put them on blast.
I want you to tell me about Rubens Barrichello and how he blew his money in Miami.
Romain Grosjean left nothing for his family after walking away from that fire.
Nikita Mazepin blew all of his dad's money and his F1 salary just gone.
Did Romain Grosjean crash on purpose because he was trying to hide his bad debts?
Gambling debt. So it was a fixed race. I think I just uncovered this whole thing, man.
Sorry, Roman. Your IndyCar career is really good.
Yeah, you're having a way better Indy career than your time in F1.
All right, let's get this last two. Who do we got?
Alex Albon. We know for a fact, as I've already stated it way too many times, $3 million a year.
$3 million a year. Bought a bunch of nothing.
Options are, hey.
I could buy half this stuff today.
No, you can't. He bought a very expensive e-racing rig for his racing setup at home.
$100?
No, that's what we spent.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Thousands probably what he spent. So he's got an Oculus Rift. That's his number one baby. That's the thing that he likes to spend all his time on, rightfully so. That virtual reality stuff, I've done it. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Now imagine if you're in an F1 racing simulator with an Oculus on.
Man, we did. You remember that VR thing that we did? So if y'all aren't familiar, there's these things popping up. There's one here in the Texas area called Zero Latency, I think, but it's this room that you go walk around and do like real live VR stuff with. I'm picturing that, but my go-kart track.
It doesn't. You could just have the car on rollers so that it stays in one spot, and when you accelerate, it just stays.
Feel
the G-forces.
The wind.
So here's what you do. You take a track like Monaco. Well, maybe not Monaco because it's already a go-kart track.
Yeah.
Take a track.
Red Bull Ring or something.
Take the Red Bull Ring. Let's take the Red Bull Ring. Shorten it to like a fourth of its length, but make it comparable. So exact fractions of what it would normally be. So when you're in the go-kart and it's going a fraction of the speed of the F1 car, you turn at the exact same time. Yep. Okay, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, but you've got the VR thing set up so you can have any environment.
Car.
You can have zombies chasing you, so they give you a little gun. It's great.
We took it too far. Daniel Ricciardo. No, let me finish Alex Albon. He does have a car collection to an extent, not as nice as the rest of the guys, rightfully so. He's only making a fraction of what everybody else does. He's got an Aston Martin DB11. I don't know what you know about the Aston Martin DB11. That's still a very nice car, coming in at $246,000.
Aston Martin's always been one of my favorite car brands. The DB9, the DB11,
The Valkyrie.
the Valkyrie. Everything they have rolled out is just so cool. It's James Bond's car.
It is. It is James Bond's car.
Yeah, you can't beat that.
No. But I'll tell you who can beat that.
Okay.
Daniel Ricciardo. So what does Daniel make annually? Now, granted, that's subject to change. He's on a new contract.
That's what I've been looking up for a minute because it's really kind of hard to find.
We know he's... Wait a minute. Is he allowed to be... Wasn't there some kind of stipulation with McLaren where he wasn't going to be able to drive for a year or be paid for a year?
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't have an answer for you.
It's like okay, answer this then. Do this little plug-in for me. How much was McLaren's buyout for Daniel Ricciardo? In other words, how much did he get in one large lump sum all at once when he left?
That's the other thing. Some articles say 36 million.
I thought it was 26.
Some say 10 million. So maybe there's a 36 minus 10 setup happening.
Millions of dollars. Got it.
Tons of millions of dollars to not race. Yeah. He's fine.
He's fine. And Daniel Ricciardo, he's out there living life. He spends a lot of his time in the United States. He goes from Miami. He goes to Vegas.
He could have taken over Nick DeVries' salary of $2 million.
He could have. I don't think he needs it, considering he's getting the $20 million payout from McLaren or whatever it is.
Paying him to race against him.
Yeah. He does have his own car collection of himself. It's hard to find what Daniel Ricciardo spends his money on. I don't know why, but it was kind of hard to find stuff. I was able to find that his prized possession car is the Aston Martin Valkyrie.
Also owned by Max Verstappen, but it's one of the coolest cars ever made.
Yes.
It looks like a Pagani, when you kind of look at it. Like, I haven't seen Aston Martin roll out something like this before, but it is the definition of a supercar. And maybe the reason we don't know a lot on Daniel Ricciardo, so remember back when he was featured heavily in Drive to Survive, he would just go to Australia and just go out in the woods with that with that motorcycle dude or the dirt bike guy. And they would just train and work and practice and all that. And then he would come back to the F1 season. So I don't really know if he's, out there buying up a ton of real estate or cars or boats. It kind of seems like he races, goes home, spends time out in the outback, and goes back and races again.
Well, he's also a guy that does like his finer things. He has his watch collections. He does dress nice. But like I said, it was very hard for me to find what Daniel Ricciardo spends his money on. I don't know if that's just because he's a lot more secretive about his things. I don't know. But I did find that Aston Martin Valkyrie. I found that hilarious just because, Max Verstappen had one. Daniel Ricciardo's got one.
What's the top speed of the Valkyrie?
That's a good question.
250 miles an hour or 402 kilometers per hour.
The reason why Daniel Ricciardo and Max Verstappen, it's so funny that both of them have the Aston Martin Valkyrie.
Got it.
Is because Adrian Newey had a huge part in building the Aston Martin Valkyrie. So much so to where they told him, hey, we want you to build what you would build if we took off the F1 rules and regulations. So this thing is a turbo hybrid V8.
So it's an F1 car with no restrictions.
Yeah.
And when you look at it, it's got a downforce package. It's got the body kits on it.
100%.
It's got side pods.
Yep.
The only difference between it and an F1 car is that it has a roof and fenders.
Well, it's got differences, right? So things that you can't do with an F1 car that you can do with a street legal car.
Fenders and a roof.
Well, yeah, you can change the spoiler, though. You can have it pop out even further. It's just all around an awesome car.
Yeah, it's one of the craziest supercars that's ever made. And, of course, had some Red Bull design features thrown in.
So, wrap up. Daniel Ricciardo. We couldn't figure out what his salary was. We know you got somewhere between 10 and 30 million for McLaren for the payout so that he didn't race for 2023.
Possibly took over DeVries $2 million a year. I have no idea.
Yeah, which is irrelevant to the 30 million.
Or he might still be racing on his test driver salary contract from Red Bull.
It's possible. I forgot he was a reserve driver.
That's part of the contract is they can move you up, and I think that's your pay. And maybe if you win a race, you get a bonus.
Yeah. Okay. We mentioned 10 drivers. We obviously didn't spend any time talking about like Yuki Tsunoda, Zhou Guanyu, Valtteri Bottas. If there's something about those drivers that you might know that they might have spent some money on, or maybe they donated a huge amount in a foundation somewhere or something like that, let us know.
What's K-Mag's biggest purchase?
Ooh. And more importantly than that,
Is it sponsoring Haas? Because they need the money.
it's Haas Magnussen.
He gets his ACH direct deposit every week, and he just sends half of it back to the company.
Oh, Jan's on the board of directors.
What's your request from the audience this week?
Guys, if you think Alex Albon is deserving of a $60 million a year contract, you gotta let us know, because I might be inclined to believe it.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Bye, guys.